Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Coffee with Katie. I filled my cup a little too high today. And as you can see, we have none other than Jack Skellington on my mug. So today's video is going to be 23 books I would like to read in 2023. Now I know a lot of people make videos about this, about like 20 books to read in 2020 or whatever, but I thought it was just a really good idea to kind of try to not only have some goals for 2023, but narrow it down a little bit, rather than saying like, I want to read the first Law trilogy, or I want to read the entire Witcher series, stuff like that. I'm going to kind of narrow this down to say that these are the 23 books that's my goal to read in 2023. That way it feels a little bit more attainable and focuses in on specific books, even if it's not finishing out a series, which I also want to finish series, but you know what I mean. These are also going to be books that are not new releases in 2023. The 23 books I will be talking about may have been a new release in 2022, but none of them will be new releases because that's a whole separate thing of anticipated releases and things I'm looking forward to in 2023. But that's not what kind of this challenge is about. This is more so ones that are on my backlist that I would like to get to, even if it came out last year and I didn't get a chance to pick it up. So this is going to be some books that I'm focusing on reading in 2023. Because they are ones that I wanted to read last year, the year before, and just never got to. So I'd just like to have this like focused list to be able to go back to when I'm building TBRs and such. Also, Happy New Year, everybody. I know I said this before with the New Year's Eve, but today is January 1st, 2023, so it's real, y'all. And with all of that being said, let's get into the 23 books I would like to read in 2023. The first one is The Howling Dark by Christopher Ruocchio. This is book 2 in the Sun Eater series. I read Empire of Silence last year and I really liked it. It was one of my favorite reads and I really want to continue the series, especially because the 5th book came out at the very end of 2022, and so I have a lot of catching up to do in order to get to that one, and this is book 2. So I'm interested into following more of Hadrian Marlowe's story and just figuring out what happens, because this is a villain origin story, which I've mentioned a million times before, and it's like if Anakin becoming Darth Vader was the right choice. And while the first one could be a little slow moving at times, I really liked it and I was really invested and intrigued by it. So I really need to get to book 2, even though it is a little bit chunky. I really like the world that Christopher Ruocchio has built, and I'm just very anxious to continue the journey. So this is definitely a priority for 2023. So the next one would be Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne. I read Shadow of the Gods last year as well, and it was definitely a book that I had been putting off, even though I've really wanted to read it, Shadow of the Gods. And I finally did and I loved it, and I need to continue the story. So Hunger of the Gods is book 2. I bought this when it came out because I was so excited about it and haven't picked it up yet. So absolutely need to get to this in 2023. Shadow of the Gods is kind of hard to explain, but basically the Norse mythology inspired fantasy where there are these gods that are now dead, and you're following 3 perspectives in the first book. They're all kind of on their own journey and they all maybe converge at the end, and it's really difficult to give you any details without spoiling anything, but they all have their own missions and they all have very serious missions. And I don't know if I said the name of the series, but it's the Bloodsworn Saga. And this is book 2 and I really need to get to it. Next, I need to get to Brightheart by Emma Hamm. This is the Bookish Box edition. The dust jacket is like inside out. So what you will see looks something like this usually. This is book 2. This is book 2 in the Dragon of Umbria series, and I really like it. It has a dragon in it who's like ferocious, but also a cinnamon roll. And it's very confusing at times, but I love that character. He's so fantastic, Abraxas, and I really want to know what happens in the story. She just came out with the 4th book, I believe, and it's going to be a 5-book series, and the 5th book is coming out this year, so I really need to play some catch up here. So I really need to get to book 2, Brightheart. Next up would be Queen of Legends by Frost K. This is book 2 in the Dragon Isles War series, and I really liked Court of Dragons, the first one. I was kind of shocked at how much I liked it because I kind of went into it not expecting a lot and not actually hearing great things, but I really liked it. I thought it was done really well, and I'm hoping to get more dragons in this one. There were dragons in the first one, but there was a lot of horrifying and tragic things that happened. So I'm hoping to get more in this one. I recently heard that this is inspired from a Raylo type romance, which I'm not a fan of, but I'm trying not to let that seep into my head. Anyway, this is book 2. I need to continue the series because this was very anticipated. I was planning on reading it in November. It came out, the release date got weird, and I didn't get to read it, and I really need to because I really enjoyed it. So this one. Next up is The League of Gentlemen Witches by India Holton. I really enjoyed the first book in this series. This is the Dangerous Damsel series. It is wild. It is hilarious. It is ridiculous. I loved it. It's kind of like a Regency romance, except steampunky almost. There's like flying houses, like they have balloons that fly houses and magic but Regency wit and like tea parties. I don't know. It's ridiculous and insane and wacky and witty and fantastic. And I've really enjoyed the first one, and so I think this one will be my favorite. She's also got the third one coming out this year that I'm excited about, so I would love to read this one. This one's following a witch, which is cool because the first one was following a lady scoundrel, and so this is a pirate and a witch, I believe. So this will be a lot of fun. And essentially she's trying to recover an amulet. So yeah, definitely need to get to this one. This next one has been one that I've been trying to get to for a while and just never pick up and never pick up and never pick up. And so I really need to push myself to do it this year. And that is Crescent City series, first one being House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. I read the ACOTAR series and I really liked it, at least what's out so far. Not a fan of Throne of Glass, even though I probably will finish it, but I've heard good things about this series, and it's an adult, so is ACOTAR, if we're being honest, but this is her first, like, official adult. So, I don't know, I've heard great things. I would like to know for myself what I think of this, if I'm a fan, and I have the first one. I have the second one, so I need to give this a shot. Next would be A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab. This is book 2 in the Shades of Magic series, and I read A Darker Shade of Magic, and I liked it, but it wasn't like my favorite V.E. Schwab book ever, but I didn't dislike it by any means, and I really need to finish this. It's just a trilogy, and I really need to continue, so I need to get A Gathering of Shadows under my belt, especially because she is writing Threads of Power, and I believe the first one of that was supposed to come out in 2023. I don't know if that's been pushed back or whatever, but regardless, I need to catch up and I need to finish this series. I've liked pretty much everything I've read by V.E. Schwab, so I have a lot of faith in her, and I just really need to continue and read all of her works. If you don't know what this is about, A Darker Shade of Magic is basically following Kel. He has magic and he can travel between worlds, so there's 4 different Londons: Red London, White London, Grey London, and Black London. But Black London was kind of overtaken by magic and it was corrupt, and now it's like dead. So now he can travel between the alternative Londons, and he ends up bringing something with him that he wasn't supposed to, and chaos ensues. There you go. Another one I would really like to get read is A Lady's Formula for Love by Elizabeth Everett. This is in that same vein of feministic Regency romances that I tend to very much enjoy. And this is more like science-y based. And this is the first one in the Secret Scientists of London series. So I have the first 2 and the third one's coming out, and I just really need to get to it because when they're feministic and Regency romance, it's just been like absolutely something I enjoy, shockingly. So I need to get to this one because the other ones that I've picked up I've really liked. So this is following a scientist who has made like a sanctuary for women like her, and she's doing some scientific research. I'm not sure what her research is about, but she's doing something important. She has a protection officer because of this, and her work and life seem to be in danger, and so her protection officer has to step in more to make sure she's okay, and I think they fall for each other. But it sounds interesting, and it sounds like a unique premise, like A Lady's Guide for Mischief and Mayhem is more murder mystery. This is more like science. So it sounds fun, also a little bit of danger, so looking forward to picking this up, and hopefully I can do that soon. The next one would be Autumn of the Groom War by J.L. Vampa. I'm actually kind of disappointed in myself. I really wanted to read this as soon as I got it, and I like didn't put it on my TBR, and then I planned my next TBR and I didn't put it on it, and I just didn't think about it, and it was very silly of me to do so, because I really want to read this. It sounds amazing, and I was upset that I didn't get it read in 2022, and so this is definitely high priority for this year. This is the first book in the Sister Solstice series, and book 2 is going to be coming out soon. And I didn't actually realize that book 2 was coming out so soon, and then this came out in like September, October, and this one's like boom in like January or February. So I really need to get to this. The premise is essentially this witch who is sent to marry this prince. They are enemies, they're not going to get along, but the Groom War orders her to marry him, and so she has to, and maybe they can save things along the way. Next is Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. I read the Red Rising series last year. I'm not sure when I finished it, to be honest, and I meant to get to Iron Gold and just haven't, and now that we have, so there's Iron Gold and Dark Age in the second installment of the Red Rising series. It's all the same series, but I consider the first trilogy to be like kind of wrapped up, and you could stop there, but it has continued. So I really need to get to this one. There's Iron Gold, Dark Age, but now he's announced that Lightbringer is coming out, and that is this year. And then there's also going to be Red God. So there's a lot more books than I thought there was going to be. I thought there was only going to be one more, but now there's another one. So I need to get to Iron Gold to figure out what the heck is going on in the second part of the series. So Iron Gold is also one that I very much need to get to. And then we have The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This is also a book that I've been told I will love. I've been told I need to read. I've wanted to read. I'm sure I will love, and yet have not picked it up. Why? Who knows? Was I not in the mood? I don't know. I really don't know. I couldn't tell you. Anyway, I am desperate to get to this. I think I'm really gonna love it. I've heard the main characters are morally gray, and there's a lot of tough choices. It's a gruesome war. There are trigger warnings. It is dark stuff, which I think is kind of up my alley, to be honest. I think I will really like it, even though it's gonna be hard hitting. And I can't believe I haven't read this yet. I can't believe it. So I need to read this. Please make me read this. Push me. Remind me. Make me read this, okay? Next, I would love to continue the School for Good and Evil series. So School for Good and Evil, book number 2. I believe this one is A World Without Princes. I don't actually own this one. I only own the first one in this series, but I really, really enjoyed it when I read it. So I need to continue book 2 and figure out what happens in the story. I can't really explain to you what happens in this one without telling you about the first one. But essentially the first one is that Sophie and Agatha are sent to the School for Good and Evil, and they think, Agatha thinks she's going to go to the School for Evil, and Sophie thinks she's going to go for the School for Good. They end up getting switched and sent to opposite schools, and you kind of find out why. It's a really cute and fun series, and I've really grown to appreciate this author now because of it, so I would really like to continue that one as well. The next one that I need to get to, because I started this trilogy again and haven't finished it, is A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Bridget Kemmerer. This is an alternative Dust Jacket, so that's why it looks a little bit different. But I read A Curse So Dark and Lonely, and I really liked it, and I really liked the character Gray, who I've been told if you like Gray, you will like the rest of the series, and you'll especially like this book. Because I've heard some people say they liked the first one, but they didn't like the rest of the series. But because I like Gray, I have hopes that I will like it. So I really need to get to book 2, especially because I have these fancy dust jackets that are really fun. So this is definitely on the list. Curse So Dark and Lonely is a Beauty and the Beast retelling with some disability rep in it, and it was very cute and very good. Next up is We Could Be Villains by Megan McCullough. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name completely. Megan McCullough? McClue. Anyway, this is an indie author, and I found this on Bookstagram, and I heard her describing this book, and it sounded like something I would love. I love superhero, supervillain type things. I love Vicious. I love any type of superhero things like that. I like Marvel, but more so Vicious, Spider-Man, those types of things. The Renegade series by Marissa Meyer, and I thought, based on what I was hearing about this, that I would really like it. It is an indie book and was indie published, so I was happy to support her in that. And it says it is book 1 in the Vigil and Anti files. So from what I know about this, she is obsessed with this like studio that produces movies, and they're all like superhero movies, and it's all great, kind of like Marvel, but they're actually hiding a secret where all of the characters and cast are actually people that have superhuman abilities, and they're hiding that. So everyone thinks it's fictional, but it's not. And there's like a villainous heartthrob that ends up kind of recruiting her against her will by like threatening her parents' lives, that she has to now help him spy on the government. And so she's kind of trying to play both sides so that she can save her parents, but also isn't going to let him burn the world. And it just sounds really good and like something I would really like. So I'm very excited about this and really need to get to it. The next one would be Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. This is book 1 in the Last Hours series in the Shadowhunter universe. I've read all of the other series up until this point, and I've heard that if you like the Infernal Devices, you will really like this one. And the 3rd book does come out this year, so it would be a great time to start. And I truly don't know what this series is, other than it is in the same time period as Infernal Devices, as in it's their children stories. So I think I'll really like it because the Infernal Devices was my favorite Shadowhunter universe series. So I really need to get to this because I have heard really good things about it, even though the rest of the Shadowhunter books I'm not really a fan of. So I would love to get to this, especially because the next one's coming out soon. The next one that I need to get to, because I think I'm really gonna love it and it sounds really good, is The Bladed Faith by David Daglish. This just sounds so good. I don't even remember the premise right now, so I'm gonna have to look at it. But I remember when I looked at the premise, I wanted to immediately buy this book, and then I didn't pick it up. So I need to this year. This is book 1 in the Vagrant God series. And I'll read you this like tiny little tagline because I think it sums up at least the spirit of the premise. Every shadow hides a truth, every hero hides a lie. A usurped prince will take up the mantle of a deadly assassin to reclaim his kingdom, his people, and his slain gods. You can't tell me it doesn't sound good. A usurped prince becomes assassin in disguise. Yes. And it sounds like a very vengeful story and maybe realizing the true price of vengeance when you take it. I think it's gonna be so good. I think it's gonna be so good. And I'm so mad at myself that I haven't read it yet. So yes, need to get to this. The next one is Fallen Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. This is an older YA series and I've just heard great things about it. I've kind of heard it described as if Game of Thrones is YA, which might actually be more up my alley. And again, this has been on my TBR for a while. There's like 6 or 7 books. I have the first 3, I believe, and I stopped myself from there and said if I don't read the first 3, then I can't get to the rest of the series. I've heard really good things about it, and I'll just kind of read you this tiny thing on the back that says, "Witches, if found, are put to death, and watchers, immortal beings who take the shape of hawks to visit the human world, have been almost entirely forgotten. A vicious power struggle quickly escalates to war, and 4 young people collide against one another, and the rise of Elementia, the magic that can topple kingdoms and crown a ruler in the same day." So it sounds very over the top, but very fun and magical. So I think I would really like this, but I really need to get to it. So definitely want to get to this as soon as possible. Next up is a very strange one. So I'm not very excited about it, but I really need to get to it. And that is The Wicked King by Holly Black. I read The Cruel Prince and was not a fan of it, but I do want to find out what happens. And as everyone is aware at this point, The Stolen Heir is coming out soon in like a couple of weeks or a week, which is also set in this universe and follows Oak, who is a kid in these books. So I need to get to this book and then Queen of Nothing so that I can read Stolen Heir. If I read Stolen Heir and I don't like it, I might stop reading. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of Cruel Prince. It's basically following Jude, who is in the world of fairy. She's treated horribly, but she can lie, and she kind of uses that to her advantage. And it's very like court politics, and she's trying to twist everything to her advantage while the Fae are trying to twist everything to their advantage. And it's very cutthroat and horrible and kind of a bully romance, which I did not like, but hopefully it gets better and hopefully the books are just improving. Because I just wasn't a big fan of them, but I think I might continue. I think I might like it if I continue, but we will see. The next one I would really like to read is Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller. I have only read one Trisha Levenseller book, even though I have a ton of her books. This is actually one that I don't own, but I've heard recently you guys have commented that if you're in like a reading slump, it really helped you get out of that or prevented you from getting into one. And I have already been intrigued by it and heard a lot of great things. So I think that kind of pushed me to put this on this list because I would really like to read more of Trisha Levenseller, and also I am intrigued by this book. I don't know much about it other than people rave about it, and she's the daughter of the Pirate King. So yeah, I want to read that. The next one I want to read is also one that I put on my TBR multiple times, never picked it up, never read it, really need to get to it, is Wicked Saints by Emily A. Duncan. The only reason I've been intrigued by this series is because I was told that if you shipped the Darkling with Alina in the Grishaverse that you would like this, because that's kind of what it's doing. And that is the only reason I will read this series, to be honest. That was the only reason I needed, so. I love the Darkling, so anything that's gonna tell me you're gonna give me the Darkling and he's gonna be like the main character, I'm pumped about. So that is why I need to read this, and if I don't like it, I don't have to continue, but I'm in for more Darkling content, even if it's not the same. So I would love to get to this. This next one was one that I started and I did like it, but I really didn't get very far into it. And I just really want to finish it. And I think I'm really gonna like it. I stopped before I was really invested, and it wasn't like a DNF situation. It was just like, I started listening to something else and I just lost track of time and my life. so I didn't finish it, but I really, really need to. And that is the Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. I think I'm really gonna love it. I think it's gonna be fantastic. I've heard nothing but great things about this, and I just need to pick it up again. This is book 1 in the Sand Sea trilogy, and I think the book 2 is coming out this year. I think the premise is great. It's kind of like a 1001 Nights retelling. She's kind of like the Aladdin thief character. She has a djinn bodyguard with her. I think I'm gonna love it, but I just didn't give it enough time to get into it. As in, like, I listened to it for like 10 minutes probably, and then I got distracted and did something else. But I think I'm really gonna like this, and I just really, really need to get to it, so this is definitely on that list. And last but not least, the 23rd book that I need to read in 2023 is the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. So the first one would be The Final Empire. That's the goal, The Final Empire. I have never read anything from Brandon Sanderson, and Brandon Sanderson is my husband's favorite author, and he loves the Cosmere universe. This is set in the Cosmere universe, but it's not the Way of Kings Stormlight Archive series. And I've gone back and forth because I'm very intimidated by the size of the Stormlight Archive series and each individual book. And I've gone back and forth on like how I should get into reading Brandon Sanderson, where I should start. And I just get overwhelmed by all the choices. I think Warbreaker would be another good option, but I think I'm really gonna like Mistborn. So I really need to read The Final Empire this year. And also he's coming out with new covers, which I like because we don't really own copies of Mistborn, surprisingly. We had like mass market paperbacks that John got as a present years ago, and I hate mass market paperbacks, so I think I got rid of them. He was fine with that because he had already read them and was whatever, but I think we're gonna buy these new editions with the new covers, and hopefully I read this and love it. I would love to get into the Cosmere and just get into like the Stormlight Archives and all that. I am just way too intimidated by the Stormlight Archives to start them. I've like kind of tried, and I wasn't really a fan of the narrator, but I think I was just daunted. It was just really daunting, so I didn't do it. So Final Empire, I have to do it. Please push me to do it this year. John is desperate for me to get into the Cosmere, and he's just like, you have to read it, you have to read it, you have to read it constantly. And now that he's reading ACOTAR, I kind of have to read some of the Cosmere. I think this is a good bet for me, and I think I'm really gonna love it, but I just can't get the motivation to start it. So this is part of the motivation. Help me have the motivation to start it, and hopefully I will just have a fantastic reading year. So those are the 23 books I'm planning on reading in 2023. Comment down below, let me know what you think of this list. Let me know which ones you think I should push to the top of the list, because this wasn't necessarily in any sort of order. Or let me know if you have any reading goals similar to this for 2023. All right, everyone, well, that is it for today's video. Please like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time. Stay safe and caffeinated. Bye.